Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. I'm sure, as most of you know by now, PlayStation Network is down, or at least as of the time of this recording, it's been down for well over 12 hours, and nobody really knows why. Sony hasn't said anything, and so I thought this would be a good time to talk about the benefits of buying games physically and why we don't really want to see an all digital future, and why, times like this kind of reveal how it would be not so great. But on top of that, I also want to talk about the shortcomings of Sony and PlayStation when it comes to situations like this. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is a common occurrence, because it's simply not. It would be an exaggeration to say that. But there is also no denying that many of us pay for PlayStation Plus to be able to play games online, and that is basically a requirement if you're on the PlayStation or in the PlayStation ecosystem, I should say. And so to see things like this happen, knowing that you're paying to play online, and to also kind of see the silence where there's no communication, Sony is not letting us know why we can't play our games, and especially because it's Friday and Saturday, and this is when people look forward to having that extra game time to unwind and relax. It's very frustrating. And so yeah, as I said, if you go check the status of PSN, it says some services are experiencing issues, but pretty much all of the services are experiencing issues. People cannot go online right now. And it's interesting because I was thinking to myself, when I went to go sit down to play my PS5 late last night, I wanted to play some Cyberpunk 2077, which is a game I'm currently playing. Now, luckily, I decided to buy Cyberpunk physically. I bought the Ultimate Edition. I have a physical copy of that. And I do have a disc drive on my PlayStation 5 Pro, and so that's how I'm currently playing it. And so when I booted it up, I did notice that, oh, PSN seems to be down. Whatever. So I went on Cyberpunk and I just started playing it. I was playing offline and it was great. It was almost like, nothing had even happened. But I came across a post on Twitter from somebody named Graham, and they were kind of tweeting at Does It Play, and they said, I've just tested this. You cannot pair a disk drive to a PS5 if PSN is down. Given that my collection is physical, my PS5 Pro is effectively bricked until PSN is up again. So this was, I think, pretty interesting, and Does It Play responds and says, snapshot from the future shows exactly why online dependency will become a problem. Just a temporary outage today, but it's already annoying. In the future, these services will cease to function entirely. Everything that doesn't work out of the box, you can then chuck in the bin. So obviously, when he says that eventually these services will cease to function entirely, we're talking about something that is way, way, way in the future, that honestly, by that time, it's hard to say how much people will really care. But the point, the kind of principle here, I guess, is really what's important, where, if you buy a disk drive and you want to attach it to your PlayStation, but you can't connect to PSN for one reason or another, that disk drive is basically useless. Now, luckily for me, the disk drive that I have attached to my PS5 Pro, it was already, it already connected to the PSN that one time, so now I can just use it, which is good. But yeah, I think that this situation kind of highlights why we still have an appreciation for physical games and physical media, right? There's nothing wrong, I think, with anybody who wants to buy their games digitally, and if that's how you prefer to build your library of games, there's no denying there's a huge convenience factor there. But at times like this, where it's like, PSN is not just down for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, but going on almost an entire day. And, it's kind of making people a little bit nervous, thinking, did the PlayStation Network get hacked again? We all think back to the infamous 2011 PSN hack and how severe that was. And, you look back at something like that, you look at just how bad the situation was, and you think there's surely no way that could ever happen again. And to be honest, I don't think that's what we're looking at here, but it is also concerning that it's going on almost, an entire day where Sony has yet to say a single word about it, and people are just, it's trending on Twitter, and people are kind of wondering, like, why can't I play my games? And I just think that, it's an interesting situation ultimately to kind of look at this and think that right now, if you're somebody who has a disc-based PS5, assuming, you're not trying to attach a disc drive for the first time to your PlayStation 5 and, connect it to the PSN right now, assuming you've already done this, or maybe you have an original PlayStation 5 with a disc drive and you decided to buy your games physically, you can currently play these games, no problem, right? I don't think people are anticipating that this is going to be a situation like 2011 where for the next 20 to 30 days, you're not going to be able to connect to the PlayStation Network. If that were to happen again, it would truly be the people who bought their games physically that would win in this situation, because they would still be able to play their games and access their games and enjoy their games offline. Anybody who has a digital library simply will not be able to access that library. So when we see things like this happen, it's not to say that this is what we should expect constantly going forward, but it does make you think, if right now there were no physical games and there were no disc drives, nobody would be able to play anything. You just couldn't access games, period. And that is quite sad to think about. But then there's the other side of this, like I alluded to earlier, where you think, this is really on Sony, right? Sony's out here, they have a network. And to be fair, I don't think anybody is expecting the network to never go down, right? That's not a possibility. There's going to be occasions where there's a couple hiccups, a couple things go wrong. Maybe it's down for a couple hours, here and there. But something like this is definitely more significant, where people are paying attention and people are starting to get frustrated and it's kind of lingering. And again, Sony makes PlayStation players pay for PlayStation Plus to play their games online. And I think the very bare minimum expectation is that Sony, listen, if you're going to make us pay to access this network and play online, the very least we expect is for stuff like this to not be like this, right? Not to see situations where it's 12, 14, 16 hours at a time where you just can't play your games online. You just can't access the network. It's frankly unacceptable, right? If we're going to be asked to pay, especially when you consider that I think about a year and a half ago, or maybe it was a year ago, somewhere around that time frame, they increased the base price of PlayStation Plus. And a lot of people were very frustrated about that. People are already questioning the value of the PlayStation Plus essential games that we've gotten so far for 2025. Some people enjoying them, of course, but a lot of people also looking at that and being like, really? This is the best we can do here. And then you see something like this happen. I'm just simply pointing out that it's absolutely fair for people to look at Sony and be like, what's going on, man? I'm paying for this service, and we all kind of have that tolerance level of, okay, on occasion things happen. But when you see something like this pop up, it really kind of, I think, starts to bother people, where it's like, I pay $80 a year for PlayStation Plus, and all I want to do after a long work day, long work week, I should say, Friday evening, I want to sit back on my sofa, on my recliner, pick up the controller, play some games online, play some matches with my friends, and you just can't do it. So maybe you are like, okay, this sucks. You, go to bed, wake up the next day, it's Saturday, and you're like, all right, well, maybe I can play now. And you realize, no, you still can't play, and Sony still hasn't said anything. I think it's understandable that people are going to start to question, like, what am I paying for again? How much am I paying for this yearly, right? So, I'm not trying to turn it into a bigger deal than it has to be. I'm not trying to make things hyperbolic here and be like, oh my God, Sony, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. For all I know, by the time I put this video out, it will be fixed. But it's just a reminder that we do pay for PlayStation Plus, and because of that, we should absolutely have a higher expectation. Like, frankly, these things shouldn't happen. They just shouldn't happen. And if they're going to happen, they should be minimal. I mean, I'm talking like it's down for an hour, 2 hours at most, and it's like it never even happened. We're paying for this. And then on top of that, you talk about the digital-only future. We talk about physical games. And it's times like this where there's just no denying that if you went physical, you're not really affected by this. I'm not going to say you're not affected entirely, like if you're playing multiplayer games, but you're not affected nearly as much as those who decided to invest in digital-only libraries. So just thought that it would be, a good time to kind of have this conversation. I do hope that by the time I put this video out, this is actually corrected and fixed, and Sony gives us some kind of update. The thing I really don't like right now is the silence from Sony. Sony is notoriously quiet, but still, you can't just leave your customers on the hook like this. You should at least let them know what's going on. At least let them know you're working on it and give an ETA potentially. But the longer they stay silent, the more concerned people are going to get. So guys, that does it for this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Be sure to leave it a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.